Me and Celia were riding our bikes. We were heading into town to sneak into some dumb horror movie about piranhas. Arr, 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 arr. We couldn't drive yet, so we weren't doing that same boring loop around downtown that the older kids could do in their cars. So we're pedaling down the road. You'd probably call it a country road with all of that space between the houses and all the lawns are overgrown, you know? Even though Celia and I probably thought it was all really built up and residential, at least for Iowa City. And as we're going along, Celia is just talking about Anna, as usual. That whole thing just kind of creeped me out. Most of us played volleyball or field hockey, but Celia's pointing at random things, saying it's this Anna Mendieta person. I could kind of feel us going in different directions then, especially when she came to my house one day with a copy of the Daily Iowan. She opened it to an article about Anna. I couldn't believe it. By then, I really thought she had made her up. But she read this article. It said how Anna liked being called a feminist. She said her art had a feminine sensibility or whatever. So Celia looked me square in the eyes and said, "So I'll be a feminist too." I didn't even know what that meant at the time, and I don't know if Celia even did. Seeing the news back then, I just thought it meant burning bras and my dad getting grouchy whenever he heard about it. So I didn't think that Celia and I would be friends for much longer. Anna Mendieta got between us. I thought Anna was the reason we took a detour that night. It wouldn't have been the first time. I didn't think it'd be the angel. For like the whole year we joked about kissing the Iowa City Black Angel. It's a statue over a grave in Oakland Cemetery, but it's the creepiest statue I've ever seen in a graveyard. So like the creepiest ever. You know how angels normally look, especially if they're over a grave? Like saintly, peaceful. Now imagine one that'll drown you in a cemetery bird bath. I guess it used to be bronze, but it turned this gross shade of black mold over the years. The angel's wings are raised up, but not like they're flying. They're turned at a right angle so that one wing points at the ground while the other wing points across the cemetery like it's shooing people away. The angel's face just stares down and the eyes are completely vacant. There are a lot of local legends about the statue. Pregnant women who walk beneath the wings are supposed to miscarry. I have this friend who had an abortion and she told her boyfriend that she miscarried after walking beneath the wings. Or if you kiss the angel, you're supposed to die immediately, unless you're a virgin. So Celia said we each had to kiss this thing to prove we were virgins. I thought she was joking. Halfway to the movie theater, Celia said, "I forgot to tell you, Charlotte called me. She said they're meeting at the cemetery first, to get extra scared before the movie." Well, this didn't sound like Charlotte. She started bawling one night when we did the Ouija board. But we rolled into the cemetery anyway. We still had some sunlight, not much. The sunset was coming way too fast for me. But Celia kept biking deeper into the graveyard, and she called back to me, "I think they're this way." Well, I sure didn't see anyone that way, but I did see the Black Angel's wings rising over the hill, and I realized that she trapped me, and our jokes weren't just going to be jokes anymore. She rolled right up to the base of this thing, but the pedestal is probably over 12 feet tall. Yeah, I'd seen it before, but always in the daytime. Of course, Of course the sun set as soon as we got to its base. What's even creepier about it is the name. It's the first name, Nicholas Feldevert. It gives his birth and death dates, but then it says his wife's name, Teresa Feldevert. And it only gives her birth date. It's like early 1800s. There's that dash after it, but no death date. So her name was carved into this thing for however long before she died. And whenever she did die, they never etched in her death date. So it's like she's still alive 150 years, 200 years after being born. I always thought that if you kissed the Black Angel, it was actually Teresa who came to kill you. I just kept looking for her behind the tombstones, waiting for me to kiss the creepy thing. Then Celia said, "So, who's first?" Not me. But she said, "You said you would all year long, you said. Weren't we just kidding?" And she's all, "What? Aren't you a virgin?" She knew I was a virgin. And she still said, "Prove it. It wasn't fair." And then she asked, "Who would you do it with?" I didn't know why she did this. And then she said, "I'll kiss it." "Then kiss it," I said. But she said, "After you." "Oh, the big tough Celia Marode won't kiss the stupid statue first. Maybe you can get your precious Anna to kiss it first." And she got all flustered and said, "Don't talk about Anna, you don't even get her." I said, "What is there to get? You point at everything and say it's this lady. It's embarrassing." And she said, "If you're really my friend, you'd try to get it. You'd look for her with me." I didn't want to look for a pile of dirt that some lady called art. And she really pleaded with me, saying, "It is art." Then Celia said, "Come with me and Sam. He's taking me again soon." I think. I told her I wasn't interested. That stuff weirded me out, more than the statue. I flicked my fingers at it when I said that. I thought bats might fly out of its wings. So Celia said, "Fine, don't kiss the statue. Don't come to look for Anna with me. I'll tell people you got it on with some gross boy in Ames." I'm like, "Ames?" And she said, "I'm blackmailing you." I told her she shouldn't tell the person she's blackmailing that she's blackmailing them. And she said, "I don't care. If you don't kiss the statue, you're either a slut who got it on with some hick in Ames, or you're a real friend who comes with me to do something I really want to do." I asked her, "Why do you want me to go with you so bad?" But I learned. Boy, did I learn. Celia's in the passenger seat, and we pull up to this chick's house. Some friend of Celia, she said, wanted to come. I'm thinking, cool, get more of these chicks into art, right? Maybe somebody will buy my shit then. So I park the car, and Celia hops out. She walks up to the front door and starts hammering her fist against it, pops the doorbell a few times. This friend of hers opens up. She's a super squared chick. She's got this plaid field hockey skirt on and a collared polo shirt, and she looks out at me idling out on the street. So I give the horn a little woo guy. Just let her know I say hello. And then this mom of hers comes to the door, very stiff hair. She looks at me, kinda concerned like. Whatever. And then she turns back to her daughter. She says something to her, and then she turns back to me, and she just gives me this stink eye and shakes her head at me. Man. Celia seemed annoyed, but that friend of hers walked straight back into the house. No big deal to her. Celia hopped back into the car without her, and she just mumbled, It's just us. When he dropped her off afterwards, her face burned beet red. I thought something real bad happened. Sam really did it this time. My mom heard her on the verge of tears and expected the worst. She ran out to the street to talk to Sam or confront him before she'd even heard what had happened, but he'd already peeled out of there, speeding down the street. I could hear Mom yelling, "Stop!" at the taillights while I followed Celia to my bedroom. Celia plopped down into my beanbag chair and she told me how they had pulled up to the same spot that they had every year. But she asked Sam, "Are we really going to meet her this time? You are actually friends with her, right?" Yeah, he said. Sure he was. They sat in that Chevelle for a long time at the edge of that property until Celia asked him, "Aren't you getting out?" He said, "I'm waiting for you." That's a warning sign for you. Not that she cared, but they saw some Swedish giant the last time they went out there. Sam, though, he cared, and he'd stayed at least 5 steps away from him, like this Swede really was 15 feet tall and about to chomp him up. Celia thought Sam was just paranoid on weed then, and probably even worse this time around. So she started pleading with him like, "Don't you want to see the new silhouettes?" I guess he sounded all conflicted about it, like, "I do, God, I do." And she got super annoyed with him and said, "Then what's the deal? Let's go." She reached past the steering wheel to open his door for him, but he finally said, fine, and he popped the lock himself. She led the way into the woods, though. They may or may not have seen one of these silhouette things in the creek. If it was, Celia said most of it already washed downstream, but Sam, if you can believe it, actually ran for a second. Celia said he splashed over to the silhouette and he kneeled down and he piled sand back up to form a hip or whatever had washed away. He was more wacko than she was. And Celia said, "Don't do that. What are you doing? It's supposed to wash away. It won't be hers anymore if you do that." Celia thought this grown man might cry. He wouldn't look at her, but he slowly nodded and stood up. They decided to look for more. They crossed another wide open field of short grass, and Celia said they were going to give up, but somebody had cleared one patch down to the dirt. A silhouette laid in the middle of it. Celia said it was drawn with gunpowder, a black outline of burnt gunpowder. Somebody burned handprints into the grass around it too. And as Sam, he kneeled down again and he pressed his hands onto one of these prints. Good Lord, Celia said he crawled across the dirt patch. He laid down in the silhouette and he kept his arms at his sides and laid in it like this, like I'm doing here, holding my arms at my sides. He tried fitting into Anna's space, but he was too tall. He bent his knees to keep his body in hers, and Celia yelled at him, "What are you doing? Get off of Anna! Stop it! Stop this! What are you doing?" She grabbed his arm and tried yanking him off it. "Get off of her! This isn't yours! Get off! Get off!" He kept pulling his arm back to his side. He really did cry. She cried. She was frazzled. "Get off!" She tried rolling him off of Anna. They both got burnt gunpowder all over themselves. I saw it on her when she showed up at my door. They kept playing tug-of-war with his arm. And somebody yelled, loud, "What the hell are you doing?" I was rushing across the field toward them, running, always running because of them. But now I meant to be loud. I probably appeared for as crazy. From the distance I heard this poor girl screaming and crying at this man. I did not know what he did to her exactly, but these two were very good at surprising me. I saw that this man laid in the silhouette Anna had made a week earlier. And when I jogged closer, I saw my greater fear prove him wrong. He wasn't doing anything to the girl. The girl actually pulled at his arm very aggressively. I thought she might pull it out of his socket. And I knew the girl was crying. But I was surprised to see he cried too. He finally lifted his head to see me. And that, my presence, finally forced some sense into him to move. He jumped onto his feet and hands. he crab walked away from me, and he stumbled and fell back and stood up again, still backing away from me. I assumed it had been the same pair from the previous summer, but now that I got a better look at him, I knew. And the silhouette was badly damaged between us. I thought I might punch the man, not because of the silhouette. It took me a moment to realize what had happened to it. I was more concerned about him coming to the farm at all. And the girl still cried, so I tried to take the man aside. I didn't think she had anything to do with it, not after meeting her the summer before. I tried speaking to this man one-on-one, but he kept backing away from me. I said, "Now stop. Yes, stop. I'm not going to hurt you, but you have planted your last potato." I put my hand on his shoulder, and this froze him in place. He breathed very hard, and I said, "I know that you have been stalking Anna. This has obviously been going on a long time. I told people about your visit last summer, and they were frightened. You weren't invited here last summer, and you obviously weren't invited here today. You lied to me. And now look at what you've done to the silhouette." I pointed down to the silhouette. It no longer fit Anna's shape. The man whimpered, and I said, "Please leave my property. Stay away from Anna. Never come back here again, or else I'll rough you up worse than you did the silhouette." I pointed again at the mess he'd made. I obviously never would have hurt the boy. I surprised myself saying it at all. It just burst out of me. And then I grabbed his shoulder harder and growled, "And don't get this poor girl mixed up in whatever you're doing. Don't bring her here. Never again." And then she truly started to cry. Yeah, I went back. I did go back. I went back that night. There wasn't a moon, so I held this flashlight close to the ground to find her. She was still there, at least a little. I could see her. I followed the outline of gunpowder with my light and brushed my palm along the entire body. And I was just like, why not, So I took off all my clothes. Yeah, all of them. And then I laid back onto a silhouette, and I just breathed, man, with the fucking cosmos shining above me. Those stars shined, and my naked back was pressed up against her silhouette. And I was just having a moment, okay? So I masturbated. Yeah, beat off. What? Like you haven't?